Hello everyone, Benji-Sales here, and welcome to my review of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, which is available exclusively for the Nintendo Switch platform and was developed by Team Ninja. Now, just to let you know what all I played of this before I went and did the review, I played through the main storyline once, did a bunch of the Infinity Trials that are in the game, as well as played a little co-op, mostly single player, but I did play some co-op. I played it probably about 50% docked and about 50% portable, just guesstimating there in terms of time frame. But, you know, I played it both ways and kind of ran the gambit here. So first, let's talk about story and just a basic general overview of the game. As always, I won't give super heavy story spoilers, but you know there will be a few very early surface level things here. Now the story revolves around the Infinity Stones, and there's of course going to be a bit of a crisis going on with them. I won't go super in depth with this, but needless to say, the stones are causing a whole bunch of trouble. A lot of villains are going to be involved with this, and if you're going to be doing the Infinity Stones, of course you're also going to be having Thanos involved. So you're kind of, you know, building an alliance of heroes to try to overcome this looming threat that is the Infinity Stones. One thing that really surprised me about this storyline as I was playing through it is how many well-done cinematics there are. You know, I kind of wasn't expecting that. I thought there might be a cut scene, you know, here and there, but there's a lot of them, a whole bunch, and they're really well done. They're not annoying. It's not like, you know, you're like, dude, am I playing a game or am I watching a movie? It's not one of those kind of things. Of course, you'll be spending way more time playing this than watching this, but there's a lot of cinematics. They're all fully voice acted, and they're really well done. The storyline itself is fairly simple. Don't expect like a super emotional, you know, life-changing type plot here. It's very simple, but it is executed well. One of the things that makes it, you know, such a fun and compelling story is how much fan service there is. If you are a fan of Marvel at all, whether that's the movies or it's comics or it's video games, you know, whatever, if you just have any kind of interest in Marvel, boy, do they just throw a ton at you, both in terms of like heroes that you're going to see, as well as villains. There's a massive cast of characters here, but also in the places that you'll go. The interactions are really fun. You know, there's just a ton. It is a Marvel fan's dream in terms of how much fan service they're going to be throwing at you here. So all in all, you know, I found the storyline and the single player, because I did play it mostly single player, to be really, really fun. Like I said, don't expect anything crazy, deep, and twists and turns everywhere. There's a little bit of that, but it's more just an exploration of the Marvel Universe and trying to pack in as many of those IPs as possible. And it's done very well. Next, let's talk about gameplay and mechanics. Now, this game can, of course, be played either entirely solo or in co-op. It's fun either way. It's not one of those games, you know, while it does feel that it is built for co-op, right, from the ground up. Clearly, this game was designed to be very fun in co-op. It doesn't suffer in terms of single player. You'll have AI companions with you, and you can play through it totally solo. I probably played 80% of my time playing this game solo, and I had a blast doing it. So don't be turned off thinking that you have to play this co-op or solo. You know, you got to choose one or the other for it to be really worth it. It's a blast either way. The gameplay is simple, right? On the surface, it's just kind of a simple beat 'em up type game. You know, you pick 4 heroes to go out with you at a time out of a huge roster, and you can play as any of those 4, you know, at any time that you want. So you just hit a directional pad button to switch between them. It's very simple combos with some super moves. And you can change, you know, your roster very frequently. Basically, every time you hit a checkpoint or anything, if you want to slide out a hero or two, you totally can. And that's where the gameplay actually gets a lot of depth. There's a ton of depth in exploring different synergies with the hero. You get different boosts and bonuses depending on which ones you link together and who all you take out with you. And you also can level up their abilities. And there's a whole upgrade system, you know, for your cast. So that's that's where a lot of the depth comes from. Not in terms of like the actual combos and mechanics. You know, this isn't a Devil May Cry or something like that, but you do get a surprising amount of depth through all of those mixing and matching of characters, and that's where a lot of the fun is in terms of, you know, the gameplay. There are, I will say, some large difficulty spikes throughout the game. For the most part, it's not that difficult of a game. You know, there's a bit of a challenge to it, but a lot of it is really about feeling empowered and just crushing waves of enemies. But every once in a while, whether it's a boss or it's a certain section of the game, there will be these very weird difficulty spikes, like huge, like you'll be going from not having much challenge to just brutal difficulty. And that was one thing that I do hit it a little bit on, is I felt like, you know, they could have balanced a little bit the spikes and the low points a little bit better. But all in all, you know, it's not a game breaker, but just be aware that there are going to be some pretty brutal difficulty spikes. And the other big knock I'll give on the gameplay is the camera can be extremely frustrating. I recommend right off the bat changing from the standard camera that that is the default to, I believe it's called the heroic camera. You can just go straight into your options and change that, and instead of giving a super wide out view, it kind of zooms more in on your character. It's a little bit tighter, a little bit easier to move the camera around. A lot of the fights can get so hectic and crazy with powers blasting all over the place that it can be hard to see what's going on, and the camera can get stuck, you know, kind of like in walls and cutting it off. This is especially a problem when you're fighting some of the large bosses in the games. Some of them are very big, and the camera can just be cumbersome to deal with. So be aware of that. Camera is a challenge. The game does have a ton of replay value. As you go through it and as you beat it, you'll unlock harder difficulties. And you know what's fun about it is you'll get better drops as you go through it of the ISO 8s, which are these things that, you know, enhance traits of your characters. And also, it's literally impossible to max out the roster with your first run. Like, it's just not going to happen. So it's a lot of fun to dive back in. I did a little bit of that, but not much. Like I said, I only beat it once, but I did dive into extra difficulties after that. And it's fun to level up, you know, all of your characters. So you can see different, you know, mixes and matches there. And also, as I mentioned at the beginning, there's these things called Infinity Trials, which are pretty challenging. Some of them, they can get really brutal, and those are fun to kind of dive into. They take sections of the main game and add a little bit of a twist or a little bit of a challenge to them and give you additional rewards for doing it. So a lot of replay value with this game as well. And finally, let's talk about visuals and presentation. Now, the game is not technically impressive at all, right? In terms of, you know, your textures and your lighting and things like that. It is not a technically impressive game. This isn't the game that you bust out when you're like, hey, look at how good, you know, the Switch can make certain games look. Definitely not. But the art style I found overall to be really, really excellent. The game definitely plays and looks much better docked than it does in terms of portable. Portable, it can get pretty blurry. I mean, you can get some major jaggies and blur going on when you play it portable. It doesn't break the game by any means. You know, like I said, I probably spent half my time playing it portable. It's still very enjoyable, but it looks a whole lot better when you play it docked, a lot cleaner. One of the things I really love about the art design is the overall character designs. I think they're mostly excellent, honestly, like very good. They're not super complicated. You know, a lot of them are like a cartoony aesthetic, but they look great. Both, you know, male heroes, female heroes, villains, you know, all across the gambit, enemies, even just like the basic enemies you fight. There's a ton of variety in this game, right? So maybe it's not technically impressive, but the amount of variety that you're looking at is awesome. The game's always throwing something fresh at you to look at, and especially like where you go. This game, man, the locations, they do some very cool stuff with camera angles and you know, just the actual locations themselves that bring a ton of variety. So overall, the art style is amazing. One thing that you will notice as you play through the game is there's a clear MCU influence on this, both in terms of voice acting, like some of them, it literally sounds like they're doing an impersonation. Nick Fury, Tony Stark, you know, some of these characters, it's just straight up sounds like they're doing an impersonation of the MCU actors, which I actually liked. You know, maybe not everyone will like that. Maybe some people want this to be just, you know, straight comic book style. And there's a lot of that too, right? They pull a lot from the comics as well. But it definitely has an MCU feel with it. And personally, on a personal level, I enjoyed that. I thought it made the game, feel familiar, but also, unique as well, because like I said, they do some, changing up of designs and stuff as well, but definitely an MCU influence. Voice acting is mostly good for the most part, but there were a few exceptions where you'll hear some characters and be like, I don't know about that. So, but for the most part, it is well done. And yeah, so what is going to be my final score for Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3? I'm going to give it an 8.5. If I could give this game, if I was scoring it on just fun factor, how much fun I had playing this game, it would be probably like a 9.5 or a 10. It is an overall blast. I highly recommend it for anyone that likes Marvel in general or is looking for a fun co-op beat-em-up game. It's a blast to play. But like I said, there are some issues in terms of camera that can get very frustrating. The game doesn't look all that great technically speaking, and there are some very strange ups and down valleys of difficulty spikes. But overall, it's a great game. I really enjoyed it. I'm so happy to see this franchise come back. I never thought I was going to get another one of these games. I really enjoyed 1 and 2, and I will say, if you ever played the early Marvel Ultimate Alliance games, you'll probably love this one as well. I think this is actually probably my favorite one of the bunch. So yep, final score 8.5 out of 10. And that is going to do it for my review. Thanks everyone for watching. I am Benji-Sales. Make sure you hit like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video. This is only my second review ever, but I'm really enjoying doing these. I do a whole bunch of content on here. A lot of it is very sales focused and business focused because that's kind of my specialty, but I do branch out and do some other gaming, just general related stuff as well. Follow me on Twitter if you haven't already. I am at Benji-Sales. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I'll see you in the next video.